First of all, I'm Phil Martin from the University of Colorado in Boulder. What we're going to do is talk about using a product called Meridian to archive, which is a document management system, to archive our historic drawings, specifications, and O&M manuals. First thing I'd like to do is give a little live demo of our Meridian Explorer package. It's a web-based viewer. Can't edit, can't do anything like that. That's for the full client. But basically what we have is a variety of picks that we can pick from. I'm going to show you what a consultant or a student or anybody could walk into our office and locate, which is basically project information from our walk-up stations. It has more limitations than all documents, and we were not responsible, the CAD office was not responsible for filing everything. There's all kinds of stuff that we can get to, but for the person that needs to come in and find some drawings or an O&M manual, we go to Project's walk-up stations. And what that does is gives us a screen that we can put in any information that we know about a building. If we know the building number or a particular project number, we can put that in. I'm going to just start typing engineering. And I get that far, and I got a whole bunch of choices, and most of these are in our engineering center. Electrical, I'm going to pick that building. If I hit search right now, we're going to get a lot of stuff. We're going to get drawings, we're going to get O&Ms, specifications, whatever exists. And as you can see down here, we've got 1,710 documents. And that's just on the electrical wing. I was going to say that sounds very low, but that's just one building of the whole complex. Let's say we want to narrow that down to just our electrical drawings. We can do that by going to Discipline and hit Electrical, hit Search again, and you'll see that we have a much more manageable number, well, somewhat more manageable, 291 drawings and O&Ms and what have you. One thing I like to do is go to the document subclass, and here's where we've broken things down a little bit. Any drawings that we have a PDF for. That's guaranteed. We had been scanning drawings even before 10 years ago, 9 years ago when I got to the department. So everything is scanned. Since about 1990, early 90s, we started collecting the CAD files. Well, both of those are showing up. Now, these are O&Ms at the moment, but you'll get twice as many drawings to look through, anything that's more current than 1990. So what I tend to do is I'll pick the record set PDFs, and that whittles out the CAD. If we have it, you can tell if it looks like a CAD drawing from the PDF, then you can go look for the CAD, and chances are we have it. But it's just less to look through. Now we're down to 242 drawings. Let's say to whittle it down a little bit further, let's pick a floor. We'll pick the third floor, and then we'll probably get down to, if this renovation or whatever's happening on the third floor, that may be all you need to know about. Now we're down to 18 drawings. We can pretty well deal with that. And it has a good viewer in it. You can either, there's a variety of ways to look at it, but anything you select, you can either double click and just open up Adobe. And if I had two screens, my preference would be to open in a new window and slide it across to the next screen. That way you can still see your management screen there. And in our CAD office, we have a nice big 50 or 60, I can't remember, inch TV. And so there you're looking at a 24 by 36 actual size, and you don't have to do a whole lot of zooming around and that kind of thing. Don't know what drawing this is, but we can zoom in and out and pan around. This one doesn't have a whole lot on it. But you can see just from this that you can see what you need to see. Perhaps all you need to do is check the title, look at it, and grab it on a USB, and you're on your way. Where'd the button go here? Let's see. And you can get an idea of what the students had to go through to put these in there. They had to look for all kinds of metadata, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Let me make sure I don't hit the wrong button here. There we go. Oops. That's my current slide. What else was I going to do on that? We can probably look at some more of that later. If you got some questions, we can do some more demos. Let me go back to where we started. We started out shortly before I got to facilities in 2006. We had a handwritten notebook, which was our logbook for every building on campus. Project numbers started with the building number and a sequential project number for each consecutive project. Shortly before I got there, that information had been typed into an Excel spreadsheet with a tab for each building, I guess, by students. And when I came on board, I transferred that into an Access database. One of the trickiest things with that was our engineering center in particular. It's about a dozen massive buildings, all compiled together. Each building has its own building number, but from 1963 or 7, whenever it was built, every project was filed under what happened to be the classroom wing, building 432. Didn't matter if it was in building 442, it was still filed, or 444, it was still filed under 432. So we had hundreds of projects for a massive complex. And not only was that bad, but it was the most researched building on the whole campus. It took people forever to find an electrical sheet for the 3rd floor of the engineering electrical wing. It was just a nightmare. We had stick files when I first got there, and some of these sticks were over 50 pounds. And there was about 3 racks just for the engineering. It was just crazy. My son actually took my database shortly after I did it, and he was a electrical computer engineering student at CU, so I gave him my database and said, help. And he actually figured out how to splice out the different buildings, and that was a major improvement. But on October 31st of 2011, we launched Meridian, and things are light years better. And this is the story of that process. Here's a picture of our original logbook, well, not original, the database logbook. And as you can see, here's our building numbers in just a sequential order by closeout date. That's how we organized things at the time. All we had, whether it was a 1-page project, one drawing, or 50 pages, was a 1-line description of the project. Nothing about sheets, nothing, no reference material or anything. We had at the time that we did this upgrade, cabinets with hard copy in them. We took the stick files and put them in fire water resistant cabinets, and if we had a hard copy, we could tell you what cabinet, folder, and whatever to find them in. We also kind of had a little check system of what disciplines and O&M manuals, whatever we received, that was here, and then we had some little remarks, perhaps for site information that went along with the project, things like that. One thing we still differentiate between is our building and site projects. Building projects include any completely new building. We call it a building project, even though it has site stuff along with it. If it's a building modification, large expansion, that falls in the building category. And all of our legacy project numbers begin with a building number. Site projects include anything that's exterior to the building and utility work, of course. Projects that involve more than one building. We have like a sewer project, goes from building to building to building and on down the road or whatever. That ends up in our site stuff. But our legacy projects began with building numbers. So way back, the CAD office picked the 900 series of numbers, since we had up to 700s and 800s already. Nothing had been picked in 900s, so we picked those, and then we just kind of assigned, 901 as exterior lighting, and so on. So, and then we got to realizing that we better coordinate with the space office because they assign building numbers. And we wanted to make sure that we didn't buy some piece of land somewhere and start using 900s. So we kind of got them reserved to be site numbers. Two types of legacy projects. Recent projects dating back to the turn of the century, this century, we have in Famous. So we have a PR or CP project number. And of course, projects logged before that in the CAD office had the legacy number, and we've kind of already hit on some of that. Bringing in Meridian, we worked with Glenn Seehausen from ACAD Plus quite a bit. Were any of you at the symposium yesterday? Good, got a new audience. Very good. Meridian works on a sort of a vault principle. It's a location where certain types of drawings and other documents are stored. We have actually a total of 4, but as far as the CAD office goes, we work primarily in 3 vaults. We have our primary vault where everything is stored with a lot of metadata, and we'll get onto that in a little bit. Our catacombs vault, one that we kind of came up with a name for, is not really used a whole lot right now, but it had a great purpose at the time. Back 4 years ago, we were collecting PDFs and DWG files at each submission, each submittal of a project. DDs, or SDs, DDs, whatever percent construction documents, what have you. So we're getting all this stuff that we didn't want to really spend the time and add all the individual data to, but we wanted to keep it in Meridian. So we made this catacombs vault where we could fill out the data, for the first document we put in, the project, the date, the percent complete, or whatever it was, and then batch load the rest of the stuff in. So it all had metadata, but it was all identical. There was no sheet designation stuff. You could figure that out pretty much from the file name. And it was a very effective vault at the time. Just so that you're aware that if you're in the same boat, that possibility exists with Meridian. And then, of course, we have what's called the CAD migration vault. And what we did there was, before Meridian came on board, all we had was a typical server with a bunch of folders in it, CAD drawings in this folder, PDFs in that one, and then those were divvied down by the 100 series number, and each building had a folder, and you saw what the logbook looked like. The file structure looked a lot like that, and that's how you would find stuff. I'm talking ahead of my slides here. So let me back up. Primary is where everything is stored, and the information comes from our famous, our CMMS system when we first start picking the information to put in to Meridian. And we also were able to batch load our Access database from our old CAD system into there. So what is the CAD migration vault? And it's basically a mirrored copy of what you used to use. Oops. But it has a lot more power. It has capabilities even with the dumb data that's in there. And we'll go on to how you use it. So it's a location where you put everything for temporary, but it keeps track of everything that's in it. So you put everything in there, and then you either dump or lock down your old server location so that nobody can put anything in, take anything out, edit, anything, anybody. otherwise you would have mass confusion. But the migration vault prevents anything from being deleted. Even if you delete it, it's really still in there and can be found again. As soon as you touch a document, you're forced to migrate it. You can't save it. You can open it, read it, whatever, but you can't save it there. You have to migrate it. And it records who migrated it and when. And it prevents that drawing from being migrated twice. It says right there it's already been migrated. If you try to migrate it, it's going to put a little dialog box up and tell you can't do that. Why do we need one? No, I'm forgetting to roll my screens here. So it keeps track of the drawings that have been migrated and lists information about who and when. You can see on the screen here that it's small to read, but right here is where it says it's been migrated to facilities primary on that date and time by this person's login name, and there's some other information about it. We kept our original files on a server. You know, we're just getting our feet wet with Meridian 4 years ago, but we have had no issues, no problems. We're going to be, doing some other migrations, and we're not going to worry about that so much anymore. The migration vault is fantastic. It's easy to use. You simply open a session of Migration Vault, open a session of the primary vault, and drag a file over, just like you would moving it to a USB drive. And then you answer fields that I'll show on another slide here, and let's just go to that. So here's the Migration Vault, another picture of the one we had. And one of the problems I've got here now is that we migrated everything, and I mean, we just finished this project up 3-4 weeks ago. It was a 3.5-year project to get 70-odd thousand drawings, both PDF and DWG in a lot of cases, O&Ms, specifications and whatnot. And I had students come in, work study students, that sometimes I'd have one for months at a time, working 10 hours a week. And sometimes I had 5, each of them working 15 hours a week. So it just fluctuated depending on the semester and the year. But let's see, where was I? So you would drag the file from that vault. I was going to say, so I don't have a whole lot of stuff in the migration vault anymore because I've gone and approved it and deleted it because it's in primary now. It doesn't need to, the migration vault is a temporary location until you migrate stuff. So I don't have a whole lot of unmigrated stuff to show anymore, or migrated stuff. So when you first pull it into the primary vault, the screen looks like this one on the left here, and you just drag the file up to the very top, drop it on projects or pretty much anywhere in that box. Pick the type of drawing that it is. In this case, we'll talk with project building. And then these dialog boxes come up. And these are completely configurable. These, we worked with Glenn to decide what information we wanted, what information is required. The required information is shown by the red, like the project source. We got to have that. The 3 choices we have there are capital projects, maintenance projects, which we basically call our housing stuff that's not facilities projects, and legacy, which was our old logbook. So it's going to fit in one of those 3 categories. So we picked that, and we picked the, in this case, since we picked legacy at the top here, it asked us for the legacy project. So it changed that second line from the very first click, first pick. And then it knows from our database that Glenn imported all this information already. And it knows the building. And it always comes up with floor empty, or NA, for you to because it doesn't know that part of just a random drawing that you put in. So you put that in, go to the next screen, which is the General tab. Since it's CAD people putting it in, we don't have to put Responsible Group CAD in because that's automated. Doc class, this is going to be closeout. These were all final documents. And then we can pick discipline. We could pick several disciplines. We pick a primary, which gets the check mark. You can see an example of that down here at drawing type. Apparently this was mostly a demolition plan. But you can put multiple stuff. And when you go to search for it in Explorer, if I wanted to find drawings with notes on them, even though that's not going to be the primary thing, you can still find it. It whittles down the kind of stuff you had. My students were fantastic. I used to just put up an ad in the environmental design building where the architect students are. And but I'd get from all over campus. The students were just fantastic, and it didn't take a whole long time to train them. They did a phenomenal job of filling in all this metadata, and it's paying off now as we, big time, because you can go right to what you want to find. Description. I can't read my own thing at this distance. So it gives you all the different things you want to know about for drawing. The last couple sheets don't have much on them. You can put notes on, and a couple last boxes to fill in. Did anybody have any questions? Yes?
What do you do like for newer projects? Is there a way to streamline some of that so we can?
Yeah. One thing I didn't expound on was, I mentioned there was like PDFs and DWGs. You get both. Once you go through a lot of, actually for the students, what they would do, and for new projects, the project information is there, but you still have to go through the demos. But what you can do is there's a Save Settings button that hopefully we can get to when we get to your screen. And yeah, whatever that document is, you hit Save Settings, and then hit Finish on the PDF, for instance. Then you have another Migration Vault open. You have two copies of the Migration Vault because you have a PDF and a DWG. Then you go to the matching DWG in the comparable folder, find that save folder file, and drag it in, and hit refresh settings. Then all you got to do is change Record Set PDF to Record Set CAD, and you got two for the price of one. So that's one little caveat that's quicker. Glenn showed us a little trick with an Excel spreadsheet where you could go down through a spreadsheet, fill in all that metadata in that kind of a format, and then import it into Meridian. I haven't learned all the tricks of how to do that yet, but
if you already have the data in like Access or something else, the same classifications that you're going to be using in Meridian, you could probably, with the IntelliSync tool, or teleport tool, you could basically just put that in the Excel. If you already have the PDFs, you point the Excel that says where those are, and it just runs and does it. So you don't have to go through one at a time.
Okay. Yeah, since you asked the question, I'll show that real fast. If you have a spreadsheet that has the data in it, we have a separate tool that can bring it all into the vault. But the key thing about this is validating the data, which you'll see in a second here. Oops, it's apparently been cleaned up. Hang on a second. That one was letting me import because I'd already fixed the bad data in it. I wanted to show you guys the one that has bad data. So you can design a spreadsheet with the list of files that you're importing and all of the key fields that you want to bring in. But the key thing to document management is quality data. So it's basically going in and coloring any cells where they didn't fill in a valid value, or they didn't fill in a required value. And so it's not letting it come in until it's satisfied with it. So that's, I think, the answer to your question about if you want to offload to a vendor to fill in the documents, you can do that with that tool. But if you want to show the vault, it's right here.
Okay. No, did I miss what did you do for those 70,000 sheets of paper?
Oh, these were all pre-scanned. They were all electronic files to begin with.
Oh, okay. But you scanned them.
We had already scanned our documents.
I guess my question is, do you keep those?
We do not.
What do you?
We are just keeping our electronic stuff. Now, that goes for projects that have been done in CAD or electronically. Any of our old historic, vellums, linens, and all that kind of stuff, we're keeping those. We have those over in a
So your
vault.
turnover projects that you're getting are just electronic?
Just
You don't get
electronic.
hard copies?
We are not even getting a single sheet of paper anymore,
No, we don't get anything.
compared to tons of
That
paper.
saves some money on the project, so.
Well, I don't know. Let's see.
So where do you have off-site storage, or do you store it all? on
We have what we call our vault. It's a room over in the stadium that we're the only ones with access to it, other than access services. And it started out as just a bunch of 125 drawers of flat file space. The middle section on a big rolly thing that you could roll back and forth. And we're in the process of going through it. Well, and we switched over from those flat files sitting under sprinkler to these big cabinets that have like the green hanging folders in your desk side cabinet. Similar to that with a spring compression system, and they're fire and water resistant. And so, if the sprinklers go off or anything happens, they're pretty well protected. We're in the process of going through those and disposing of duplicate copies and blue lines of CAD files. If it's hand done, we're keeping it, period. It doesn't matter what medium it's on. But we're trying to get that to an archive status of storage, learning about acid paper and this and that. It's still a mess over there, but we're trying to chip away at it. But this, for the purposes of this was just migrating the electronic files we already had. Everything had already been scanned over 10 years ago.
But those things in your stadium are not scanned. Are they also scanned?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they started with. They scanned everything over in the stadium. Then we had paper copies of those scans, printed out on flat file or hanging files when I got there. And we've since gotten rid of all that paper, but it was copies.
So to the quality of the data. So you have duplicates in the stadium, and you get rid of duplicates.
Right.
Do you also have duplicates in here?
Not in Meridian, no. We have a PDF and a DWG that are the same file.
But if you scan everything in the stadium and put it in here, there should be duplicates as well here. No?
If you had duplicate sheets, did you go through and get rid of the duplicates before you loaded the?
Oh, yeah, no, things, I'm lost on the duplicate part.
I have a problem with quality, and so if you find duplicates in the stadium, I
In other words,
imagine you would also find duplicates here.
Well,
So
Meridian doesn't let you save
no, in other
the
words,
same metadata twice. I mean, it's going to tell you it's already in there.
that's part of the going from the CAD vault to the
yeah.
migration vault to the permanent vault. You have a QC that goes on that eliminates that. Okay.
At least on the project side,
Oh,
I assume on your side.
Yeah. The migration vault won't let you take the same file twice. We found, maybe I shouldn't have said the word duplicate, but where we would find a similarly named file that was a twin of another one, we picked the best one we had, especially if it was, sometimes, every once in a while, out of thousands, you'll find a couple.
Yeah, because I have a, quality,
Yeah.
We actually developed a duplicate checker. Colorado doesn't have this. Probably should have done this for you. Sorry about that because you're done. But
She's not.
Michigan State had us do a duplicate checker that's kind of clever. The problem is, the system won't let you put the exact same description of a document in twice because it would collide it and tell you.
Yeah.
But the problem is two people, even the same person, an hour apart from each other, might describe the document just slightly enough differently where it isn't technically a collision. So what we did for Michigan State is we taught it how to compare, 3 or 4 key fields that might be more likely to be representative of what everybody would describe it. So the same project, the same discipline, actually even I don't think they included discipline, but anyway, 2 or 3 or 4 fields, not everything had to be the same. And when those 2 or 3 or 4 fields were identical, it would pop up a list of all the ones that were already there that had those same things in common. And then they could scan that list much faster and say, oh yeah, it's already in here. And actually they could click it in the list and view it to do a physical comparison.
within Meridian.
Within Meridian, yep. Because duplicates, especially if you're spreading out to the masses to put a lot of stuff in. I'm not talking about now a scanning project, but I'm talking about as projects are happening and everybody's putting stuff in here, it's very easy for the same file that I got on 2 emails, 2 different people on the same email were copied, and both of them try to do their due diligence and say, hey, I'm going to be a good boy and put this into Meridian where it belongs. Well, they both just put the same document in Meridian.
So, but as far as duplicate PDFs, we didn't have very many that fit that category.
Yeah, I'm talking more like if the document is really a construction document, but it should be you also have a record copy and a DD copy and a NASPL copy, and they call it the same thing.
Okay. Well,
Which one do
these were all the record copy, the closeout copy. That's what we had in our old file server. So these weren't all the different submittals.
But current projects, what they do is the PM side, the design and construction side, they put the review sets that come as they get them immediately into Meridian, and they put it in a different classification called review. And it's typically the entire set as one big PDF file. Okay. Then when the project wraps up and they get the best and final that they're going to get, then the CAD group goes back and puts in the individual sheets and describes them individually only for the best and final.
Right.
What they call the record set.
Right. Yeah. So the review sets stay in DNC's section of the vault, so you could go back and historically see those now. That we didn't have before, other than keeping paper copies somewhere. I don't know where they kept that because that was not CAD's piece of it.
You could show that probably on one of these projects that has drawings. You're in Old Main right now.
I don't know what's in Old Main. I got my machine all set up the way I usually do it. So.
See if I can find one. So this one has review, submittals, and this may have various, I don't know if this is a good example or not, but in this folder could be a bunch of sets of drawings. Can you think of a good place for it?
Yeah, go to McAllister.
McAllister. Let's see. What building number is it?
I have no
Okay,
idea.
well,
I can tell you building code. I don't know.
Oh,
I work in design and construction. We don't need the stinking building numbers.
McAllister, it's SEEK now, S-E-E-C.
Oh, it might be C.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to active only.
Is it?
Yeah, go there. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Favor.
Who?
Fager. Fourth, fifth one.
Okay.
Oop, you
Yeah.
got-
Yeah. First project.
So that's the project manager, that's the project.
And if you go to
There's
review.
review.
And then drawings. There you go.
So here you'll see, and I'm not gonna click any of these because I don't have all their drawings on my laptop.
No, because they're huge.
But, and
Yeah.
they're huge, but that's all the various sets. And then once this thing reaches closeout, you'd be able to go up here and you'd be able to look at the record set, and probably not to that stage yet.
And that's a zip, so
Yeah,
don't try to
so you
open that.
haven't- yeah, you
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
done
we're
that
not,
yet.
no, we're not there
Because
yet.
this project's still active. But
Yeah.
once this project's over, they'll find the best and greatest, and they'll put all those under here as individual sheets. so that they can be found that way.
So you have an active project vault also?
That's just controlled by Famous. When they enter their data for the project number, when they pick the project number, Famous knows, the project management system knows whether that project is active or not, and when it changes inside of Famous, it automatically changes in Meridian. So that way the PMs who are using this every day, all day long, can just focus on the active stuff and kind of turn a blind eye to yesteryear.
Yeah.
But the people who want to look at it all can look at it that way.
One of the things that we're actually working on between Phil's group and my group is this idea that you put it in there once and then you're able to transfer responsibility to another group. So we're in the process of working on that. So if we had record drawings, when we get those from the architect, we would put those in Meridian under review, send him an email, and then he'd move them to, or he'd copy them out and then put them back in. Now we're looking at doing a different type of transfer, so the information's only in there one time.
Like migrating it from active to closed.
So
Actually
James,
transferring of responsibility from design and construction to CAD, saying that, we put it in, but CAD owns it.
so James Faber has been involved in this many projects
On that building.
on that bill, no,
Oh, I'm sorry.
period,
Yeah.
ever. But then if that's the all projects, but then if I'm James Faber and I want to just look at the current stuff, I switch to active only, and you can see that if I open up his folder again, it's just 6 projects that he's literally working on. Same data, just filtering it for him.
It's the same vault.
Same vault.
Same
People
vault.
want to look, if I wanted to find something, I would have to look at all of these active and closed projects.
I'm not sure if I'll let you, you could choose to, even with the Explorer module that he showed earlier, to say, hey, I want to focus on just active projects, or I could focus on everything. So
Yeah.
each person can come at as much or as little data as they want.
This is just
It-
a different
it-
nav view.
Right, I was gonna say, this looks like a file structure, looks like what you're used to looking at, but you don't have to know all that. There's, first of all, he's made us a whole bunch of what we call navigation views. One I look at a lot is sustaining building abbreviation. I know the abbreviations, I don't know the numbers. So I go there, and here's Armory and Atlas and Baker and Buckingham, and I can zing up and down to where if my mouse will work, you can get there to get slide bars. When you do pick something, Eckley, drawings, I can go to base plans, and this is sustaining, so that's just all you're gonna see. Base plans, there's all our base DWGs and PDFs, and not so much part of the archive, but when we edit a DWG, we're forced to make a PDF. We can't submit it back in and without a PDF, which is fantastic because that's what goes on web pages, and it's always up to date and current. You don't have to doubt whether they could have had 3 revisions the old way and an old PDF. You'd have to stop and look or just make one when somebody requested it. So, but
So
that's
you got DWG and PDF there. What, somebody sends you a Revit model, what are you gonna do?
well. Now these are our base plans. These are our dumbed down walls, doors, rooms, windows, like everybody has.
They can store Revit models in there. They're not doing that yet, but they
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple of them, but anyway, yeah, that can be stored in there. Yes. I'm sorry. You've had a question for quite a while.
Yeah, I had a question about your scanning when you mentioned that. You said the physical documents were scanned 10 years ago or more.
Yeah.
Were you scanning to PDF at that time, or did you?
No,
go to
actually,
TIFF,
we
or-
scanned to TIFF,
Okay.
and then we converted them to PDFs.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we just mass converted them.
Did you make them text searchable PDF when you did your
Not
conversion,
drawings, no, because
didn't do that?
a lot of them were hand drawn, and I mean, that was, no. Now, all of our O&Ms and specs that we had scanned since I've been there, that was a project, those are all OCR.
They were OCR?
Yes. And if any of you are considering, I've said this on the CFTA, what do you call it, email thing, about every year and a half, the listserv. One thing we learned the hard way was we sent out specs and O&Ms by the box load. out of town. Don't do that. Don't care what the price is. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Do it somewhere where you can keep an eye on it and grab the stuff back if it goes south like ours did. We got great samples. We got jumped back for a long time. So, and they had our stuff halfway across the country, so don't do that. Any other questions?
I got a question. How did you decide on what fields to include in the metadata?
Disciplines were pretty easy. We just went through the typical disciplines in a drawing set. Let's go back to Explore. You got Explore open here somewhere, Billy?
Yeah, you can.
Just go ahead and open it, if you would, please. We just spreadsheeted it out. And so we had disciplines. And then what's all involved within, electrical? Well, there's fire alarms, lighting, all those categories. And we just kind of listed them all out, and passed it around the CAD office, and, group input, so we didn't miss anything. We got some super comprehensive spreadsheets from Glenn that we could whittle down. Well, we didn't have this or we didn't have that. And we whittle stuff out and add stuff in, and it's very customizable. You can make things required, like I said, in the red.
Each customer, we sit with them and do a needs assessment on that. And we start from what we've experienced with lots of other university facilities groups and show them, 5 or 10 different examples of what people have found work and what doesn't work. And then in the end, they decide exactly, okay, these are the metadata elements that we're wanting to do. It's really all pretty much in common now. It's what effort did you get the document in the context of a project or a work order? And then, what classification system, like a taxonomy of documents, so that I can find correspondence versus drawings. And that's actually one of the harder ones to come up with the lists for. And then for drawings, it's pretty much the common stuff you'd expect, discipline, etc. But we walk through that whole process with them and help them.
Is Meridian, is it designed specifically for AE purposes, it appears? We're faced with 2 initiatives, archiving your stuff like you've archived it, and then at the management level, archiving all the other documents.
Yeah. No, we can do it all. It's flexible enough. I don't think UT Austin is in the room. Sue, no. UT Austin was one of our most unusual ones in that we sold it originally to the vice president's office for all of the plethora of paperwork that they collect. I mean, every time somebody stubs their toe and threatens to sue the university, that letter goes to this office. And so they have to, scan that thing in and keep it, and they have serious retention issues that they have to, because those documents, you want to be able to legally have amnesia when you're allowed to have amnesia. So it was completely more of a business side than an A&E side.
So if we were relaying what we've learned, we could say, yes, it's a traditional document management system that's customizable to AE needs.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We're on the beginning steps of putting our administrative, contracts, emails, templates, all kinds of stuff in there. So, yeah, it'll hold handy. Can view just about anything. How many viewers do you have?
Yeah, views hundreds of file types, and you can store anything in it, even if we can't view it. It can be stored and managed and found and downloaded and edited with the editing application. You just can't look at it in our viewer if we don't obviously support it in our viewer. So like let's say you stored MathCAD in there. Well, we don't have a viewer for MathCAD, but you can still do everything else, and when you want to view it, you double click it and watch MathCAD, viewing with MathCAD.
Yes.
When you had your students there with all of these PDFs ready to enter the metadata, would they open up the drawing and examine it and say, okay, we've got a framing plan on this one sheet, as well as a cross-section and 2 structural details and a small schedule for structural details?
Right.
Then they have to, did you have categories for each one of those? Saying,
Yes.
okay, this sheet
Yes.
has all of those things on it, and they put all of that in there?
They'd look at it. They could get a clue from the on the title block, you know, if it's A13, well, that generally is an architectural sheet, so they put architectural. They could pick plan as the primary, if that's the biggest thing on the sheet. Sections, details, schedules, all of that. And I can show you.
Does it literally have what type of schedule it is, or if you're searching for that later, do you say, well, there are 10 sheets that have schedules on them, and I have to look through each one of those to find the single schedule that I need?
They didn't put, you know, every single schedule on, no. The word schedule is a clickable
Yeah, okay.
word. Now, they had to get creative on some of these. You've seen old drawings from 1914 that don't have a border, don't have a title block. They got floor plan, you know, door schedule, and a window elevation. You know, they would, and no description in any kind of a title block, maybe not even a date, you know, and that got complicated. But, you know, they got good at saying architectural, plan, schedule, and detail, or section, or whatever it was. So.
This is why you got most of the people out of the architectural school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got a most out of the architectural school. In fact, I think for this project, they did all come out of architectural and engineering. But I have had students doing CAD stuff that, you know, one kid 12 years ago was majoring in like psychology and Chinese. He was a fantastic CAD student, and he could have done it too, you know. So, and I think I limited it to like junior level
You have to-
students that had some.
You have to watch out for philosophy students. Because then when you give them a "you are here" map to put in there, they actually turn it around and say, "Are you here?"
So, any other questions? Glad to answer questions.
What did you do with the small documents? You discarded the printed ones from CAD. What about the specs and design?
Oh, they're all gone.
Okay.
We had 8 big, I mean, you could have filled this whole wall with specs and that wall with O&Ms. Except for 3 or 4 boxes of special ones for old buildings, I mean, from way back or something like that.
For
But
historical purposes.
for historical purposes, yeah, we've got 3 or 4 boxes. I remember where they are now. I know they're in Meridian.
Yeah.
We can find out. Yeah, they're in the stadium. You're right. They're in the vault. I know exactly where they are now. Think about it.
The stadium is conditioned space?
It is. Yeah, it's got air handling and fire sprinklers, which could be a curse, but but yeah, everything is pretty much protected over there now. And but electronics the way to find it. They're just saved over there so that somebody in 50 years can say, "Oh wow, look at this." You know, that's pretty much it. Because nobody goes in there anymore.
Well, what the redundancy in this data?
Yeah. This is solid.
Did you say what about it? Oh, one can
I'm sorry.
explain. The redundancy, so if I need to find a document and our servers are down, how do I get that document?
Yeah, they haven't defined at Colorado as being a really fast window that they have to be able to do that in. They're snapshotting their virtual servers, so it would take however long it took to restore a snapshot of their server on another server. If you know, catastrophic failure I'm talking about here, where the server caught fire or whatever. Obviously, lesser failures, different recovery plans, but it's definitely, I mean, even if it's set up such that even if Meridian were to go completely down and we're out of business, Lucello's out of business, the manufacturer of Meridian, so there's no recourse to even call somebody and get help. Their administrators there know how to get to the metadata and to the documents in a sensible way for the users so that they can restore all those documents into a traditional file share, and they can still get to everything the old-fashioned way as they go find a new vendor to replace Meridian with, and then they can go bring all that metadata into the new product.
How long would it take reverting to the file structure?
As long as it takes to do a huge copy, basically. So if you have a half a terabyte of documents, it's going to take, a day or something for it to do all that copying. But it literally is just a glorified copy of everything. It's just rearranging it back into a human understandable form like you were accustomed to seeing it inside Meridian. So they have plenty of fail-safe. We wouldn't probably sell a lot of Meridian if we couldn't answer those questions with the IT people. What happens if you're gone and it's down?
Oh, trust me, our IT people are
We
very,
gotta know it's gonna work, so.
and our IT people are very particular about that. If they can't get their hands on it, we don't get it.
Now, we have had some people that are really, I described Colorado just then. We got one customer that wants redundancy within a minute. Meaning they want to know that if that one goes down, there's another one exactly like it a minute later. That's pretty tough, but we've done it. Actually, Entergy in New Orleans, when Katrina was barreling down on Entergy, they used Meridian for all the transmission system lines, all the drawings of the transmission system. But when a hurricane hits a city like New Orleans, what do you think gets the most damage? The power lines.
First thing we
So
go.
what do they need to go fix all those? The drawings to understand them. So they had a redundant server in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was redundant to the minute. Every time a change happened in Meridian in New Orleans, it happened simultaneously behind the scenes in Little Rock. So they flipped a switch, and when Katrina was barreling in on them, and they never missed a heartbeat. It was actually their only application in the entire company that pulled that off. And so here's the really funny part of the story. It worked so well that the guy responsible for it could never get any money anymore because they said, well, you do such a good job, you must not need any money. Isn't that crazy? We got to go fix these other problems with our money. Your stuff is working great.
That's crazy.
Hate when that happens.
They should have only put him in charge of fixing their other problems.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming. Worked out really good. I'm glad we could answer some questions. And if you have any other questions, catch me wherever. Or Glenn. Thank you.